welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're taking a look at Silent Victory, U.S. Submarines in the Pacific, 1941 to 1945. So this is the second printing of this game. I believe the first one was put out by Consim Press, which was distributed by GMT, but this one is published and printed by GMT. This is a Greg Smith design. I have played this game extensively, the first printing. I love it. This is a new one. I believe it's pretty much just a straight reprint though. This is a solitaire submarine game. You play as a US sub commander, and you have a submarine and a crew, and you're just trying to go around the Pacific on patrols, hunting down Japanese shipping, and sinking in as much of it as possible. Really as simple as that. This is a narrative game. It is, the decision space is there, but it is small, but the stories that this game generates are memorable. I have a good time playing this one. So you got yourself a rule book that's 28 pages, but that's bibliography, designer notes. So, really, and top tournaments, optional rules, really you're looking at 20 odd pages of rules. Everything's divided into 3 columns. This is a fairly easy game to digest. A lot of the rules are written descriptively, which normally isn't my cup of tea, but when you actually play it, the game is fairly explicit and procedural, so that the actual gameplay gets around the rules style, that's all. But yeah, it's not a complicated game in any way. Let's take a look at these are the submarines that you can use, okay? So these are, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, and these are all double-sided. And they are different on both sides. So there's a whole bunch of different types of submarines. Some available from the start, some are not. But you can see on here, this is your sub information, this is your patrol information. And that's the one thing I super love about this game, is that you can play with basically just this. There is a combat card that you'd want to use as well, but the footprint of this game can be very small, which I appreciate. You've got some holding boxes for different crews and units and awards. But you basically have a deck gun where you track ammo. You have torpedo tubes forward and aft, and you just fill those with torpedo counters. And then you basically roll on a chart, and it tells you which mission you're going to go on. And you move your little counter along these boxes, rolling to see if you find anything. And if you do, you do a combat, launch some of your missiles, all that kind of stuff. Or some of your torpedoes, I apologize. And then, you know, if you take damage because there's destroyers or escorts with depth charges, you know, you might take hull damage, you might take flooding damage, which might force you to surface or you sink, and you can pump the bilge just to get rid of flooding. You might take damage to your engines or to all of your different other kind of like equipment and utilities, and then your crew might get wounds and things like that. But that's what you do. You go out and you do all these things. There's a bunch of different classes, so look at this hull track, much bigger than this one, for example. And it can hold significantly more torpedoes, and you can have many more readied. Here you got 2 and 4. You got 6 tubes in the front. There's a lot more there. Now you have fewer engines, for example, so it's easier for you to be put out of action in that sense. But you know, as you go from class to class, each one has its upgrades and different capabilities, which I enjoy. Now, they do give you this really nice looking map. I actually really like this. Typically speaking, I use this, but it is just a fancy pants version of this chart right here. What I do is I just lay it like this, and then I just do my movements on here. This just looks nice. I actually really like this. Entirely bling. Entirely superfluous. You do not need this. You can play just on this chart if you are already cut for space. So this is the patrol log, and it goes from December 41 all the way to July 45, and they're double-sided. But basically, you just roll. This is the patrol I'm going on. You go on your patrol. What do you see? Do you sink it? Yes or no? And it's got some different notes up here, like your modifiers for your torpedoes get better as the technology increases, different things become available. But you're basically trying to go through a whole career, try and not die, get through the whole war, and then it's how much total tonnage did you sink for the whole campaign? Was your campaign a success? You compare it to victory points, yes or no. Real simple game, but some of the stories it tells, again, really cool. This is the only other piece of paper that you'd need. So, like I said, you can play with just these 2 cards. However you want to do it, this is a small footprint game. You just use these 2, because, this, you can just, a piece of paper, come on. But these are 2 cards you'll kind of want to have laid out flat. This is one of the best cards I've ever played with. It has the entire sequence of play for all of your combat and all your depth charge cycles as well. I love this. You basically, whatever ships you come across, you put them on these, you line yourself up, who are you going to attack, incoming hits on your subs for when they attack back, what range are you at, what are you attacking, a couple of different modifiers, bits and pieces. But this is it. You do all your combat here, tells you how to do it all. You do all of your kind of tracking of your patrol and who you are on here. This is it. It's so great. And this, okay, so this map is if you're based out of Hawaii. This one is if you're based out of Brisbane in Australia. So depending on where you're stationed, that's which one of these you're going to use, North Pacific or South Pacific. But again, these are just totally superfluous. Oh, do we also have on here, that's Brisbane. Oh, you can be in Fremantle. Is that? Okay, so there's 3 different bases that you can be based out of. Okay. Counter sheets wise, a whole bunch of targets, and it's anything from named battleships, destroyers, and aircraft carriers to just like generic large freighters or large tankers, or or even small tankers. So you're going to come across a few ships, pick your best targets. If you're running out of ammo, you kind of are like, oh, it's not worth it. I might wait for something better, but then you might not find anything, and then you might go home disgraced. Lots of cool bits and pieces in this game. But you've got, here's your steam torpedoes. You get some acoustic ones later on. Do we have electric torpedoes? Yes, okay, they're on the reverse side. Electric torpedoes, they're much, much better. But it's just a bunch of different counters that you're going to use on the different tracks and holding boxes, your damaged systems, ammunition for your deck gun. If you're playing any of these historical campaigns, which we'll get to, medals and awards that you win for valor, and some more damage markers. That's a lot of what this game is, really. It's a couple counter sheets, and you'll just have pools of these that you'll roll. Oh, this is what I find, and you try to sink it. Yes or no, it's a lot of dice rolling. So the game is played on these charts. Usually I have this out, and I have my attack sheet out, and then I just hold these. So I don't have a lot of stuff out in this game. But you just roll for your assignment, where you're going, you move along that track, you try to see what you find, right? So in the transit box, on a 2 or a 12, you find something. And then you're going to roll 2d6 on this, whichever patrol that you're on in each box you get to. Oh, you find a warship. Great. Well, then you go to, what warship did I find? So I've got my warship target roster. I roll a D100 on here. And then it tells me, oh, I found a 1,600-ton destroyer, the Shiguri. So you put that out, and it goes on the, let's see, 1,200 tons would go on this line here. And so you've got basically, you need to do, so it needs to get here to sink. So you put it right here, you need to do 1, 2 damage to it, and then it'd sink, okay? So that's what you do. You roll some dice. Do you hit? Do you miss? And there's all this kind of torpedo dud checks because the torpedoes were garbage early in the war. If you hit, how much damage do you? How many hits do you do? Right, and then do you sink it? Yes or no? If you mess up your shot or they early detect you, they're gonna send a number of depth charges at you, and you're gonna roll damage on yourself. It's a lot of dice rolling. Here's what all of the damage systems, the consequences. If you lose your periscope, you can't make submerged attacks. Following combat, attempt repair. So, you can try to fix it, but then if you cock up that roll, it's inoperable for the rest of the mission. Not doing surface attacks, dangerous. Don't do it. It's very risky. But it's rolling a bunch of charts. The story happens. You're there to experience it. You do make some decisions in, how to attack and whom to attack. But that's mostly it. Then it's rolling a bunch of dice, seeing what happens, which is fun. I enjoy it. There's real tension in the depth charges. You shoot off some torpedoes. Oh, you sink one, or you only hit one. You're like, crap. And the destroyer you're rolling dice, taking damage. You try to get away. You don't. They drop more depth charges. You roll damage. You're like, oh crap, I'm gonna die. You roll dice. You don't get away. And you're like, oh no. And it just goes on until you get away. And you're like, oh, you limp away in a shell of a submarine. You're like, let's just go back home. I enjoy this. This game has a lot of tension to it, which I really enjoy. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 counters, or I guess these are big boards. Are they double-sided? Squad Junior. I think they're the same on both sides. Oh no. Okay. So this, you can play as this guy. You just set it up. This is what you've got. You get a little extra ability. And at the end of the campaign, you have to try and have done better than what he achieved. And these are all real. Greg does a lot of research with these historical campaigns and people. So Richard H. O'Kane, boom, won a whole lot of stuff here. Sunk 93,000 tons of Japanese ships. And those, you have a little counter to put on your playmat for who you're playing with. But that's really what everything in this game is. You roll on charts, and it tells a great story. I like this game a lot. I've played a substantial amount of it. So we have this brand new second edition, or second printing copy. I'm going to make Grant play it, and then we're going to compare notes. So this is Silent Victory from GMT Games, this printing. It is available now. I would, if you're a solo gamer, get your hands on it. It's good fun. Thank you very much for watching, and I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.